It's been about a year and a half since I made my last moving to Jacksonville video, and since then, my team and I have helped about 50 families make the transition to Northeast Florida. And during that time, we had a lot of questions I didn't even think about as someone who has lived in Jacksonville for a number of years now. Nonetheless, they're frequent questions, or people want to know about these topics, so I decided to remake this video. Let's talk about 7 things you need to know before moving to Jacksonville, Florida. Let's get into the video. All right, so number one of the most frequent questions we get is, how are the alligators there? Now, I will say in my time living here and the number of summers I spent visiting my family here, I have not seen a wild alligator before. It hasn't really occurred to me, but don't take my word for it. In fact, there was actually a study done by a UNF science team over here, which is the University of North Florida, for anybody who isn't familiar with the school here. They actually did a study of all the tributaries and all the rivers and everything in between, and saw that there was only about 90 alligators that they saw, and almost none of them were adults. In fact, they only saw one adult alligator, which is over 6 feet long. So if you do see them, they are few and far between. It seems that the construction and continuous development of Jacksonville has actually pushed them out or to the south or to the more central part of the state. So not really anything you should be worrying too much about. Again, haven't really ever seen one before, and I will tell you that a lot of residents that have lived here longer than I have will tell you the same thing. Number 2, one of the most frequent questions we get are the hurricanes. What are the hurricanes like? Should I be worried about them? And a quick and short answer for you is not really. There's only ever been 4 hurricanes that have done any notable damage to Northeast Florida, to Jacksonville itself. We've only had 26 hurricanes ever in the Northeast corridor, and I know that sounds like a lot to some people. This is taking over like 100 years of data. It's nothing compared to the south part, which Southwest and Southeast have seen 49 hurricanes each, and then the Northwest, so Pensacola area, the Panhandle area, the Gulf of Mexico side, has seen a whopping 66 hurricanes. Also, of those 26 hurricanes, we've only had one Category 3 hurricane ever come close. So usually it's just a lot of rain. I'd be more worried about the flooding, if anything, but nothing really to worry about here. Mainly the grocery store panic too. That's also a very real thing. So don't get caught up in the hype, but it does lead us to our next big thing. Number 3 is going to be insurance. So home insurance is actually a very real problem here in Florida in general. And Jacksonville unfortunately gets lumped into that category because we've seen a lot of roof claims from storms and damage and flooding and all that good stuff. And subsequently, most insurance carriers have actually gone bankrupt from the rest of the state's claims. And yeah, I'm sure Jacksonville has had their fair share of roof claims itself, as well as structural damage that insurance has had to come in and clean up. But nonetheless, that makes insurance very costly here. I would say on average, we're seeing anywhere from $1,800 to $3,000 a year. So think about another like HOA payment for a really nice neighborhood or something of that nature. It's something that definitely kind of sticker shocks a lot of people. So be aware that when you do move to Florida, it is a pretty penny to get insurance. I have a guide up here on how to not find flood zones, how to make sure that you are not finding a home in a flood zone. It's really important that you do make sure you watch out for that, because not only is home insurance bad on itself, but if you have to get flood insurance, it is another costly item. Number 4, let's talk about affordability, because I think this is kind of ties in with the whole insurance thing as well. We're seeing an average price point of about $350,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home here in Jacksonville. And obviously that varies tremendously depending on where you're looking at. If you look in St. Johns County, which is a very sought after county, very sought after place, has the best school district in Florida, according to niche.com. Again, that video up there of tools you should be looking at when it comes to moving to Jacksonville, definitely a good video. I highly encourage you to watch it. Nonetheless, St. Johns County, very expensive. That whole south part of Jacksonville, so Bartram Park, Mandarin, a little bit more expensive than some of its west side counterparts. There's a lot of variation when it comes to home prices, and I would just make sure that you find something that you're comfortable with, and make sure that you're leaning on myself or the team members when it comes to finding the right area that fits your needs. The last thing we want you to do is to buy into a home that you're just simply not able to afford. I don't sleep well at night. I know my team doesn't either when we put you in a precarious financial situation. When it comes to affordability, it also makes sense to know your job before you come down here. Now, that could either be something local, or maybe you telecommute. Maybe you are a work from home specialist, in which case, hopefully you're taking the other state's salary, because when it comes to Jacksonville home prices to the salary that the average worker is making, it's simply not affordable. It's not an affordable place to live. It's pushed a lot of people towards Yulee or Middleburg or further south, like Palatka. So please make sure that you don't just come down here on a whim and then find a job second, especially these days. I could recommend that maybe 2 years ago, when it was a little bit better mark to market when it comes to salary and home prices. But since then, home prices are a little bit out of range as we wait for salaries to kind of catch up to the home affordability index. And if you think you're getting it any better with renting, please take a step back, take a deep breather, and realize that that rent payment that you are paying for most of these places around here in Jacksonville could definitely afford a reasonable home. So again, please lean on myself and my team. We are always here to help. I will go ahead and flash my contact information again. Number 5, so speaking of St. Johns County, we do have really good schools here in Northeast Florida, like really good schools. St. Johns County, according to niche.com, was the best voted school district in all of Florida. We also have close behind them Clay County, which is the number 4 school district in the whole state. Right behind them, I think is vastly underrated, is Nassau County, which was the number 12 rated. It was like neck and neck between 6 and 12, I believe. I think they got the short end of the stick, but that's just me personally. And then you have Duval County, which is kind of hit or miss depending on the schools. I will let you go out and check niche.com itself. But we do have really good schools here in Duval County, so don't let Duval County scare you off. We have really good taxes here when you compare it to St. Johns County. But schools are very important to us here in Northeast Florida. We have some of the best in the state, and I don't think you can go wrong just about anywhere you look. I would heavily recommend that you look at niche.com so you can see anything from reviews to grades that they give them based off the data that they're provided. It's a really useful website, and again, I covered that in this video above. Number 6 on the list is going to be fun and recreation. Now, this one is something that I have a pretty scathing review on. I think Jacksonville is getting there. I think it's getting to the right place, but I swear if we see another strip mall pop up, I'm going to lose it. It's strip mall model seems to be the go-to here, and it really grinds my gears when I go back home to go visit my dad up in Gainesville, Georgia, and we drive through Alpharetta. We go see my sister-in-law, and they have such an incredible place over there that has a lot of walking space. It has a lot of local restaurants and boutiques, and even Gainesville, Georgia. The Gainesville Square has an awesome place to walk around in. Atlanta's gotten so much more fun since I used to live there, and I think Jacksonville is kind of stalled on that side. Now, we are getting some renovations at the beach, and the beach itself is incredible. I think Jacksonville beaches are some of the most underrated that we have to offer here on the East Coast, by far. There's 22 miles of pristine sand, and they aren't very crowded. Not yet, at least, I would say, all the way up to Fernandina Beach, down to Ponte Vedra, and even going down to St. Augustine, right? St. Augustine Beach, Volano Beach. I will have a video on that shortly, but until then, you just have to take my word for it. The beaches are very fun, but kind of lack some stuff to do. I wish there were some more activities, more festivities. We do have the third Sunday, so they set up a local Jack's pop-up shop over at the Seawalk Pavilion, so definitely check that out. We do have like Under the Bridge over in Murray Hill, which is again very cool local pop-up shop where they have local foods and everything like that. I do think the downtown scene is getting a lot better. I think Murray Hill, I think 5 Points, I think Avondale, they're all getting really much more fun, much more local, and something that you can bring not only your kids to, but it's fun for like young single adults as well. So good for any walk of life. And if that isn't really your scene, well, I would suggest that going down to St. Augustine is actually a really good place to be. I love St. Augustine. Personally speaking, it has some of the best food that I've had since I used to live in Charleston for like 6 months. Charleston has incredible food. St. Augustine is right there. We've had some incredible meals, incredible restaurants over there. It's really fun. It's a very small town feel. I hope they don't ruin it. They are making a lot of these like hotel developments and everything like that. That kind of worries me. I love the small town vibes that you get from St. Augustine while having a ton to do over there. So St. Augustine, very cool. We do have a ton around us to actually do, and it is getting better. But I wish there was more like outdoor shopping centers with green space. Green space is another thing that, we have some of the biggest state park systems in the whole United States here in Northeast Florida, but it feels very concentrated and not scattered amongst the city. I wish there was places for us to go chill and parks to go hang out at. They seem a little more few and far between than I would personally like. Last but not least, let's talk about transportation. Again, we're getting there, right? So we're getting the expressway that comes down from I-10, goes into Oakleaf Plantation area, and is actually going to go across Green Cove Springs and into St. Johns County. I think that'll help alleviate a lot of woes, especially with the Buckman Bridge. I think if we continue growing so much, the Buckman is just going to become even more of a nightmare. We do have a few roads. I mentioned this in my last video. That Blanding Boulevard, definitely a bad one. Collins is bad, but they are expanding it, so there's some hope there. San Jose can get bad, but not really as bad as like a Southside Boulevard or Beach Boulevard on certain hours. We do have our roads that are just like kind of a headache to traverse, but in the grand scheme of things, just know that wherever you are, if you are from a major city or anything like that, Denver, Atlanta, Cleveland, these were all places I used to live, that the traffic was much worse, and that was years ago, so I can only imagine what it is now. I don't think Jacksonville traffic's that bad. It's just the sheer distance. Speaking of distance traveled, I really wish there was more commuter lines or buses or more frequent stops by the JTA. They are doing better. And again, I can't say that enough. They're making something that is going from downtown Jacksonville all the way to St. Augustine, but it's going to take 8 years. So this is why I'm bullish on Jacksonville in general. I think there's a long way to grow. I think they do have something called the Emerald Trail. That is a project that is also going to take about 8 years, that is developing around the urban Jacksonville area, that will actually make it a little bit more of a walkway. So we'll have something similar to, say, a Beltline in Atlanta, or all the green space that you do actually have in New York City, like Central Park, where you actually get to focus on the locality and you get to walk around the city itself. These are all things that I really do think are going to push the envelope for Jacksonville and continue pushing us forward into becoming the city that I know we can be. It still is a very fun place to be. Still great to relocate here. I moved here about three and a half years ago, and I haven't looked back. And granted, I did know a good bit about the city because my family lived here, but it has been a great place for my wife and I to continue to thrive, to buy our home, to see everything that's going on in Jacksonville, and continue to be happy for the future. We still have some ways to go, but I'm sure that you or your family or anybody else would be happy to live here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my team and I. My number is 904-615-9007. You can also reach me, Bryson, at brysonpowers.com. I would prefer a text and email to set up a call, and then we can kind of move from there. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and we'll see you on the next video.